Welcome to the Gentleman Project Podcast. I'm your host, Kirk Chugg.
And I'm Corey Moore. In the podcast, you will hear from some of the world's most dynamic people, providing you as a listener weekly access, lessons learned, and key principles about how to be a better father. Today we have Alex Austin with us. Alex is a good friend and a really great inspiration to many kids, not only his own kids, but the kids at A-Train for Youth that he teaches basketball and maybe more importantly, life skills. Excited to hear from him.
We hope you enjoy the show today. If you like the Gentleman Project Podcast, please like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Alex, tell us a little bit about you, about your background, and a little bit about your family.
Well, I'm a former NBA player. My professional career lasted 16 years, and I've traveled all over the world, and I've seen a lot of things that have been unique in my lifetime, but nothing like I'm doing today.
Alex, you are a role model to a lot of kids, right? You run a program called A-Train for Youth. Tell us about that.
Well, A-Train for Youth is it's like my heart. I try to go out and leave a legacy with a lot of kids. Some people want to be legendary. I'd like to leave a legacy. The reason why is because I believe that every kid deserves an opportunity in life, not just a second or third chance. So with A-Train, we go through and we take kids from all different diversities and poverty-stricken kids and kids that are privileged, and we mesh them together so that kids understand all different walks of life. It doesn't matter where you come from. It's amazing what a little orange ball can actually do to help you become better in your community as you grow in your life.
That couldn't be more important today, right? In today's environment, things that are happening in the world in 2020. Maybe tell us a little bit more how you do that at A-Train. How do you mesh them? I've seen you do it. It's amazing. Tell us more about how do you go about that and what do you do? What tools do you use with these kids to turn them into these responsible, focused? You talk basketball through basketball, but it is way more than basketball. I've seen you in action. Talk to us about that.
We have developed a program where we have done currently, since we started back in 99 and became licensed as a nonprofit in 2004, we've done almost 65,000 hours of community service. We require our kids to do a parental contract and a contract with the charity. That gives them ownership and responsibility to have a part of it, want to be a part of it, and actually not just do the work, but live it. And so what I have done is I've developed a system. I've actually tricked the kids through their own different types of, through their little computer games or their world or their music. I'm really down to earth. And I always tell them, even though I'm generations older than you, I actually get it and I understand you. And it's amazing what happens when I say something as a former athlete to a child and his eyes lights up, but his parents said the same thing yesterday and he goes to sleep. And so with that being said, I go through and I ask my kids in groups to join each other so they can see it as a brotherhood, hand in hand, what community service is, how to learn to give of yourself. It's really important in life. I believe there's two people in life. There's givers and takers. And which one are you going to be? Those that give, they receive tenfold later. That's in the Bible. I always say that to my kids.
So Alex, as you have had these community service projects, do you give these kids an assignment to go do a community service project, or do they come up with it themselves?
Well, it's very diverse. Sometimes we have parents that are in need of help with their grandparents or relatives that might be on a farm. We just recently did that. A gentleman has cancer. He's got horses, Belgian horses. He's got stables. And a parent wrote me an email, because I'm the administrator, coach, and everything now until I find a new administrator. And so I get different ideas. I also just recently got the email for the Walk of Life, which we have been doing for almost 15 years for breast cancer. So we try to stay in the same realm, but when we reach out and we move to something different, it's really great because other people have great ideas and need help also. So when those ideas come to me in an email, I take it to our board and I say, what can our kids actually learn from this? Not just doing the duties, but when we talk to them and speak to them, how does this relate to sport? And how does sport relate into life and what they're going to do and create this memory? And that's how we determine those.
That's really cool. So I've heard some statistics from your program, and it might have been a couple years back. So do you have current statistics on the success? What's your metric to measure success coming out of this program?
Our metric at A Train for Youth is how we go through as far as recording. Our kids have to record their service hours in a book. And also, we keep records of our kids' grades. We used to be at a 3.0. I mandate now it's at a 3.2. I still go through and I do my charting and I drive around town to multiple schools because our kids are from all over the state of Utah. So I do this 3 times in a week. And I go through and speak with counselors and everything else and teachers about our kids that are in our program. And it's very interesting. You know, teachers are willing, and especially now during this time, they're like, you're willing to take a chance to come to this school and ask about a kid that's not even yours. Well, he is mine. He's in my program. You know, the parents have gone through, they've given me permission to come check on my kid. And then I peek in the classroom so my kid can see that Coach Austin is not just a basketball coach. Here's a guy that's willing to go the extra mile for you. You know, when you need something or you need a conversation or something's bothering you or you're going through depression. So that metric and statistic is how we measure our success. And as we grow, which we have really grown right now, the parents have really been responsive. It spreads like wildfire. So we're a word of mouth charity, but we're 150 strong, and it consistently is always there year after year.
I've seen you in action, Alex, quite a bit, and I'm always impressed. You really just talked about how you're showing the kids love. Really, you're showing them that by going to their school. You're showing them by helping them with service. But I've seen you on the basketball court, and it's all business.
Yes.
And you're aggressive with them. Mm-hmm. And I think there's something really important and special there, right? These kids know that you love them. That way you can be aggressive and talk to them about real world issues or about working hard on the basketball court.
Exactly.
So talk to us about some of these characteristics that you're trying to instill, or what are when you think of these kids and they leave your program, what things do you want to teach them? What things do you want to make sure you engrave in their mind, you know?
You know, I've had so many kids from different backgrounds, and I'm so proud of all of them. I mean, I just recently had 5 of my kids used to be in the program just leave for their LDS missions. And I get these emails. Coach, you were so influential. You helped me grow within my heart to learn to love. And also the toughness that you've given me from what I'm going to have when I leave outside this door and what the world is actually going to give me. They're going to give me nothing. I have to learn to earn everything the way that you taught me to.
So, Alex, let's translate this to some actionable goals for the fathers listening. If somebody doesn't have a relationship with their kid, and I know I've been in that spot before where I feel like kids are kind of distant right now. How do you get that relationship? How do you build it? I know it's not a quick, and there's no magic pill.
No.
But from somebody who professionally every day takes it upon himself to build these relationships with kids, how do you do that as a dad?
Well, as a father, it was difficult for me too. I don't want anyone to believe that, fatherhood is easy. It is not. Because even as young fathers, when we first have our kid and we see them come out, we have so many emotions that go through our body. How am I going to provide? What am I going to name him? What's going to be his nickname? Is he going to be a star? Is he going to be a regular kid? Is he going to get picked on? There's so many things that go through. So I don't want anyone to think that as a father it was easy for me. It wasn't. I was actually nervous. Even being a professional athlete, this was probably the biggest step in my life when I had Isaiah. But the one thing I did understand, and the one thing that I try to instill in my kids is this, is in order to build a relationship with a young man or a young woman, they have to believe in you. And it doesn't have to be your career. For me, it was a little bit easier being a former athlete and having the connections that I've had throughout my life. And people Google now and they're like, oh, I'm in awe. But then when they meet you and they say, wow, that is nothing compared to who you really are. And I think a lot of it has to do with my relationships with all of my kids. And I call them my kids because I'm going through fatherhood all over again every year, Kirk, is I communicate. And when I communicate with my kids, it is eye to eye, right? And it's in person. And I think kids just want an opportunity to tell their story. And sometimes it's very difficult for a kid to come through and tell their story if they don't believe in you. If they think you're looking for something. It's like I said, nothing's for free. So the kid is sitting and they're saying, well, what do you want from me? Well, let me give you a certain responsibility. And with that responsibility, we start to build our relationship. You trust me a little, I trust you a little. Pretty soon, it becomes a jailed family. Then the floodgates come open. I have kids. I have a fourth grade team, and those kids come in every single day, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at practice for 2 hours. They come in with their mask on. They take them off. They wipe their hands. They sit down. And I love seeing the conversations with each other. Kids from all different walks of life up in the stands about what happened with their day. And then they're so anxious to run over and be like, Coach Austin, every day you always ask me what's going on in school. Who said what? What did this kid do? What happened there? That's the interest. That's the relationship. And as a father, I did that with my son because my dad was a man who was poverty stricken. And our biggest times together with my dad was when we sat and had a relationship of love, like Corey said. You're not asking me for anything, but I can always open up and discuss anything with you because you trusted me a little bit. I trusted you a little bit. You scolded me. You helped me. You learn to grow in life.
I know Isaiah also, and I know how much you care for him and love him, and how much time you spend talking to him about his life and about his decisions in life.
I get a little teary-eyed.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. That's where the love comes from, right?
Yeah.
Talk to us about what worked with Isaiah as a father, and maybe some things that didn't work so hot, right? The idea is people are going to listen to this and go, oh yeah, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to learn from that, right? Because the whole reason I got involved in the Gentleman Project was because I was like, I'm not the greatest dad in the world, and I want to be better. Like, how am I going to do that? And Kirk inspired me, right? And you've inspired me.
He didn't only inspire you, he inspired me. My son and I, we still have our books and write in them.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So tell us a little about your relationship with Isaiah and lessons learned and things that worked, that kind of thing.
Well, for the gentlemen out there that are raising their sons, and Corey, you've been around my son since he was young and watched him grow in his profession. But, mine's a little bit different. My story's different. And the reason why is because in 2014, my son was the number 1 NBA draft pick, and he was an honorary pick. And the reason why is because he had a flourishing career coming out of Baylor, and he ended up with the testing of the NBA doctors. He ended up with Marfan's, and Marfan's is a small enlargement of your heart or vessels, within your heart. So, he was susceptible to death. We never knew anything about it. And that's a devastating thing on draft night when he's there and he's watching all of his friends be chosen. Here's a young man that knows he was better, knows that he had a path that he needed that he chose and was going to go through, and is taken from you in life. But early in his life as a father, the first thing that I did was I did not force my issues upon my son. I understood that I was a professional athlete. I did not push him in that direction. And it was a love. It was out of respect. Because a lot of fathers tried to push their kids in a direction that they were taught. I think kids now are so smart and so intelligent. They choose their own path when the time is ready. And I wanted my son to do that. But once he chose that path, our relationship got stronger, because every day he was like a sponge. He would ask me more. Dad, why do you do this? How do you do that? Why do you speak to people this way? And I got to groom my son as a young man early in his life to becoming a professional. But as a father, I was still nervous all the time, because you never know when they're going to go off the deep end. And you're like, whoa, you did a 180 on me in the middle of nowhere. But I am really blessed as a Christian man to keep my faith and instill that part in my son. That's the biggest part I'm proud of. He has a lot of tattoos on his body, but they're not insulting. They're not unrational. They're all biblical from the Bible. So I must have done something right early in his life, instilling that part. And with that part, if a father goes through and he instills a spiritual side in his kid, then I firmly believe if you give them their choice in life, they'll trust you more and communicate with you more. Now, I don't know if I can say this on the podcast, but I'm going to say it anyways. The biggest compliment I got as a father, and I don't know about any other father out there, but the biggest compliment that I got as a father was my son was in high school. He calls me up and he says, Dad, I firmly believe I am ready to buy condoms. Now, wait a minute. If you don't get that statement, you're just deaf, dumb, and blind. That means I did something right as a father, because especially in this world right now, there's so many out of wedlock children that don't have fathers like us, or separated homes. That confirmed to me as a dad that I did it right. That statement from my son.
Yeah, you had the relationship with Isaac that he's like, instead of, hey, what do I do? Where do I go? I've got these confusing feelings in high school. That where did he go first?
He came to his dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that speaks volumes. So good job, I guess. It's a payday, right? To be able to have a moment like that. And I think some of us have had those moments, and some of us want those moments of connection with their kids. I heard you walk in this morning, and
always loud.
And you were telling Corey that you were a grandpa.
So
you don't look old enough to be a grandpa, because I think you stay in better shape than most of us, being a professional basketball coach. But you're a grandpa. Tell us what that part of your life looks like, and what it means to you, and how you're enjoying it, and what you're doing now as a grandpa to now be a dad and a granddad.
I absolutely love it. I love being a grandfather more than I loved being a father. And that's a tough statement. It is. Because as fathers, when we see our sons, the only thing we want as fathers is to have our sons succeed more than what we did. Just leave your legacy better than what I have done for mine. I don't want people to go through and compare the both of us. What I want them to say is, you had a great dad, but man, you're a different guy than your father. And he raised you the right way. You're way different. But being a grandfather, Kirk, there's no other blessing on this earth before you leave it that you want. And it's not difficult. And the part I don't understand is when grandparents say, oh, it's great because I get him, I play with him, I send him back home to his parents. I'm a different grandfather. And I get a little teary-eyed on this part because being a professional, it was tough for me at times with Isaiah when I had to travel the world. And I missed out on a lot of things with my son. I did. And I had to make a sacrifice in life so he would have a better life later on, and set a good example for him to becoming the professional that he was. But when he had my grandson, he's given me a new life. A new life to not live through him, but to live through his next born. And I'm a selfish grandfather because these are the times in life where I didn't get to hear him read sometimes at night. I didn't get to go to some of his school programs. I didn't get to take some of those walks with him because I was sacrificing to give him a better life. And now I'm living that through my own grandson. And it's absolutely incredible for me. If you want to be humbled, that's it. And I am a humbled grandfather, but I am very selfish because this is my time. This is my time to give back. And I treat my kids the same way in the charity. I give my time to those kids. I love those kids. They're trustworthy. They want love. I think everybody does in life. And I'm just trying to give my guidance to my grandson and to others, and my wisdom. That's all I can give.
Alex, thanks for sharing that. That's awesome. I can see my dad going through that same thing with his grandkids right now, just saying, ooh, I'm going to get it in again.
Yes.
And I'm going to take advantage of it. And that's very, very cool. And you should be selfish.
Yes.
Related to that. You mentioned a little bit ago about how some of these kids, Isaiah's done it, my kids have done it. I'm sure your A-Train kids do it. They do that 180 you talked about.
Yes.
Like something happens in their life or they're maturing or they're going through, those teenage years, whatever. And there's this, who are you today kind of thing, right? Yeah. How, is there any certain way that you approach that or that you handle that or anything you've learned? Because again, most of us as parents, we've had, I have 3 kids. Some people maybe have 8 or 9 kids.
Right.
You have way more than that, thousands and thousands of kids in a way because of A-Train and your program. Tell us a little bit about how you handle those 180s.
Oh man, I don't even know how to explain this. I call it Kookyville. I do. They get to a certain age and I've had to explain this counseling my parents within the charity. Look, when that guy gets in the 7th grade and up, it just comes. It comes like wildfire. And the biggest thing that I have done is I have early in my son's life at that time, as well as my kids now that are in the charity, I explain to them and give them plenty of examples of kids that are still in the program that are a couple of years older than them. And I let them know that it's okay. And they look, and when I give them an example or I tell them a story of a kid that's 2 years older that's in practice with them and they can relate to it, they don't feel embarrassed about it. And I think some kids become rebellious and do the 180 because parents understand as they get older, we want all of our kids to stay a certain age. We do. As dads were like, oh, you're not the sweet little girl anymore. You're, oh my gosh, you're right on the walls. You're driving me nuts, But there's different stages in life for this new generation of kids. And we as fathers have got to understand that. And during those stages, if you can give examples in your lifetime or your sister or their sibling, they went through that and they know that it's okay that they're going through it. I think they'll communicate a lot better with you. A lot of my kids communicate that way. And then for me, it's been a little bit easier because I take the example of my older kids and I actually have them teach to the younger generation because they've already been through it.
One of the things that I think you see more than others too is social media, phones, technology. I mean, that I've seen you at the gym. They're bringing it in, and you have rules related to that. So talk to us about how you talk to your kids about technology and social media and that kind of stuff. What do you tell them? How do you help them through navigating that part of their lives?
As they come in, I bark at them immediately the first day. I says, hey, I'm going to be the bad guy. I says, I'm going to bark at you. I says, you're not going to like me. I know. And I roll my eyes and they start laughing. And I'm like, you understand what I'm getting at. We're not going to go through and Snapchat during practice. We're not going to go through and we're not going to take videos on Instagram. We're not going to go through and Facebook Live. I says, the only thing that you're going to do is you can bring your shoes, your socks, your water bottle, a jersey, and you're going to go to work. It's like carrying a pail. And I says, I'm going to teach you what that means because kids don't know what that means these days. It's hard work. But in that welcome email, I explained to my parents, only adults are allowed to have their phones in the gym, and those have to be on silent. I don't even want to hear a vibration. And my kids, they get it. They're there to work. Now, do I have my phone on? Of course, because my kids love music. And we play all different types of walks of life of music while we're training. You would be amazed how kids' minds stimulate even more when you give them what they really want while they're working.
So talk to us about, you see different kids every year. You have kids that are with you for quite a long period of time. And I'm sure some kids develop super fast and other kids a little slower. And do you see any commonalities between what the kids have in their life that determines their ability to grow and succeed? Do you see things that are taught to them by their parents or by you where this kid just seems to grow like crazy all of a sudden because something happened in their life, or hard work clicked, or, what is it that makes some kids just blossom?
That's difficult to say these days because, I'm a firm believer with my teachings and what I do. I can help talent flourish. I like to play my fourth graders, and I keep talking about those guys because I love those midgets. I call them midgets. But those fourth graders, I like to play them against sixth grade teams because I don't want them to get complacent playing their own age group and winning all the time. Sometimes a good friend of mine he was like a second father to me, Rick Majerus, who passed away. And he used to say, the biggest thing in life that you're going to learn, Alex, is to learn to fail. With failure comes success because you adapt, you figure it out. I don't just take the good kids and work with them. I work with the last kid on the bench.
Alex, I think it's neat that your goal isn't necessarily to pump out NBA players.
No, I'm sorry, I can't do that.
However, you do have a good success rate of kids playing basketball and maybe getting an education for free, right?
Yes.
Do you have a success rate you can share with us about this stuff?
We do at A-Train. I used to have the girls program, but all of my girls, they went to college. So that was 85% at that time. Right now, I only had 2 seniors on my travel teams. And both of those guys, one guy went on his mission, but he was offered. And the other guy is in college at Cal Poly. But I have a bunch of freshmen and sophomore. And I play those guys against 17s and 18s. I don't believe in playing your own age group because it's too much success early. But I have a group right now that 72% of them have already gotten offers as freshmen and sophomore in basketball in high school.
Your insights today have been very valuable for me. And we really do appreciate you coming in, sharing those insights. It's a very interesting and unique perspective for a lot of dads to hear your side of it as a coach that's a professional. And I think what we can do is we can all take away, maybe we can be a coach to one of our friends' kids.
Yes.
Maybe we can be that person.
Excellent idea. Excellent point, Kirk.
Well, it's been a very valuable and fun morning to be with you. Thank you so much, Alex.
Thanks for having me, gentlemen.
Alex, thank you so much. You're awesome.
This is wonderful.
Fantastic conversation with Alex today. I think one of my favorite takeaways is he said with his fourth graders at A-Train for Youth, he listens to their story. He asked them to tell him their story. And I thought to myself, what would my kids say if I was a fly on the wall and someone they trusted said, "What's your story?" to my 10-year-old or my 14-year-old? What would they say? That's super interesting. I'm going to have to figure out a way to hear what my kids would say their story is.
Yeah, and if you want to try that at home, that's a great takeaway from today's podcast. If you like today's podcast, please like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and we will see you on the next episode.